Hi, my name is Emily Armstrong, and I will be presenting my research on the menstrual cycle effects on a female athlete's performance. So a little bit of background. I'm sure there are many people that have athletes in their lives, whether they are student athletes, college athletes, professional athletes, and I'm sure that each and every one of these athletes has a very active lifestyle, they're very fit, and they are consistently striving to be better. They are consistently striving to increase their muscular strength and muscular endurance. However, studies show that there's a decrease in a female athlete's performance during their menstrual cycle. Every athlete wants to be at their best at every game they're able to play. Yet many female athletes are presented with an issue because of their menstrual cycle. In order for a female athlete to be at a peak performance, they have to acknowledge the possible outcomes of their menstrual cycle in regards to their performance. They have to know that this could be an issue that affects the way that they play their sport. So why exactly is this an issue? Why is this a problem? So female participation in sports is on the rise. Over the past couple of years, we have definitely seen a huge rise in female participation. We see not only professionally is there a lot more games being watched, not only has it become more popular, but you also see it even with youth. You see a lot of youth participation in sports, which is fantastic. It is great to be able to see that. However, the menstrual cycle can affect performance, and it has not been addressed through many studies. There's not been a lot of research on it. It's been something that's kind of been passed over. That, and I also think since this is a new and upcoming issue, that it hasn't been discussed really. So why exactly do we need future research in this area? If a female athlete is aware of the effects their cycle can have on their performance, they can take the necessary precautions to avoid these side effects. If they know the scientific data behind these things, they can better address the issues. They can take steps to address the issues. Not only that, but more research can be done in how to address these issues, maybe even medications that are specified towards athletes. There's so many ways it could go. So for my research question, I asked, what are the effects of a woman's menstruation cycle on an athlete's performance, specifically their muscular endurance? And I also hypothesized that I expect a woman's menstruation cycle to have a negative effect on an athlete's 1 rep max and muscular strength. So in order to do this study, I took 10 women, all of which are current elite college athletes, and we looked specifically at 2 sports. We looked at track and field, and we looked at swim. Not only that, but we looked at 2 specific races. So we looked at the 1500 meter race in track and field and the 500 meter race in swim. The reason we did this was because these are specifically endurance races. You only put your endurance athletes in these races. Therefore, the participants would be geared towards muscular endurance. There are also a lot of sports that this research could be applied to. This doesn't limit this research specifically to just swim and track and field. There are so many other sports that are endurance. These are just the specific ones we use for our research. All of these women were 18 to 24 years old. And then in order to do this research, we tested the women with a 1 rep max test during the follicular stage and the menstrual stage of their cycle. So the menstrual cycle has 4 different phases, different stages. And the menstrual cycle is, of course, the most well-known one. That is when the uterus is shedding, so that is when the woman gets the most effects, especially fatigue is one of the main effects that can really limit their performance as an athlete. So we tested during that stage as well as the follicular stage, which is directly after the menstrual stage when the body is really in recovery, and normally that is when everything is back to normal and they should be performing just as normal as they would. So in order to do this, we use a bench press and weights. So if you do not know what a 1 rep max test is, it does use a bench press. And what happens is you put the participant through a series of rounds. So for ours, we did 3 different rounds. So we took a bench press, and you start them off with a comfortable weight, and then you continue to add weights until they cannot do any more reps. And they only do 1 rep at a time. So basically you're just trying to figure out what is the maximal amount of weight that this individual can rep. And by doing that, you're testing their muscular endurance to see how much their muscles are able to put up with. And so we did 3 different rounds and then took the highest number from those rounds, and we tested during the follicular stage and then during the menstrual stage of their cycle. So in order to get and compare the results, we put them up on this spreadsheet. So you can see the top portion is the results that we got during their menstrual cycle, while the bottom portion is the results that we got during their non-cycle or their follicular stage. So you would look at the very left, if we start from there, that is the different subjects, and then you can see their gender, which are all obviously female, their age, their height, their weight, and then to the very right you can see the results that we collected after the 1 rep max bench press, and that is the number in pounds. So when you compare the top row to the bottom row, you can see there is slight differences. There's differences in the mean, but we will talk about the results of that a little bit later. So the results from the 1 rep max test were put through a paired 2-sample t-test, and then they were compared in order to know if they were statistically significant. So by putting these results through a paired 2-sample t-test, we did find that there is no significant difference between the 1 rep max of a female athlete during the follicular stage and the menstrual phase of their cycle. This did contradict past literature that we had found. A lot of them did state that there was significant changes with the female athlete's performance during their menstrual cycle, during their menstrual phase. So I do not know if that means that our study something was wrong, or if this was a new finding. I'm not really sure. But I do think for future research, there definitely can be a longer period of time that is used to do this study. For this specific study that was done, we only looked at 1 cycle, which I think prohibited some of the results, while in order to get a more accurate result, you could do the study over the course of 3 to 6 months, so 3 to 6 different cycles, in order to really outline any outside factors, such as they didn't get enough sleep, they were tired from something else, they didn't really eat that day. There's so many other factors that can affect that. So I believe if there was a longer time where they could be observed, these outside issues could be eliminated. So in conclusion, though not statistically significant, the menstrual cycle still had a small effect on the female athlete's performance. So although running it through the t-test, it didn't show that it was statistically significant, as I showed you before, there were still differences between the amount of weight that the women were able to lift. There was not a lot of difference, but it was still slight, which shows that there is a small effect on a female athlete's performance when it comes to their menstrual phase compared to the follicular stage. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Thank you.